savol-javoblar o'tadi. Sizga 10 minut vaqt, reglament bo'yicha. Hop, Mamadaliy va E'zoza G'ulomjon qizining hujjatlarida barcha hujjatlar mavjud. Antiplagiat natijalari yaxshi, a'lo darajada 90% chiqqan va qolaversa ilmiy rahbar xulosalari ham mavjud va taqdidlar, ilmiy taqdidlar ham mavjud. Shuning uchun boshlasak bo'ladi.
Good afternoon, honorable teachers and dear students. Today I'm going to present my graduation work titled Effective Techniques of Teaching Grammar to Young Learners. So, well, first of all, let's talk about teaching English grammar. Teaching English grammar is very important and it's considered one of the hard works for teachers because English is our second language and it's a little bit hard for students, especially UPEC students, to learn. And we pay attention the students of school students ages 12 to 16-year-old students. And teaching English grammar is very important because it helps to make correct sentence and to build correct communication, oral communication with everyone. And this study aims to explore effective teaching strategies for this age group. I mean, 12 to 16 age group students. So, the aim of my research is to find the most effective ways of teaching grammar for the students ages 12 to 16-year-old students and to evaluate their significance in the educational process and to provide recommendations for implementing this method into classroom methods. Well, to be honest, I work with students at school and their age is 12 to 17 to 18-year-old students, and it's a little bit hard for them to teach grammar. Firstly, talking about the objectives. Firstly, I went to school and I explored some of the pedagogical series of grammar teaching. I worked on some of the articles, I used some of the books which are related to teaching grammar, and then I identified common grammar issues among learners. We have some of the grammar issues, grammar mistakes, students, which are very common with them and which are very similar with them. And I analyzed the classroom methods. We know that at school we can see many teachers, and their methods are very different. And I tried to analyze their method, and then I used my books, I used my articles that I have read to suggest in a way the strategies, and then I assess effectiveness of selected techniques. So this is the content of my work. My work consists of three main chapters, and each chapter includes 2 or 3 main plans. So I started my graduation stages with talking about the history of English language teaching in Uzbekistan. To be honest, the teaching English language was really difficult in Uzbekistan before independent years. And by Mr. Jalal said that he divided the history of English 4 periods. Period before 1924 and period up to 1961 and period up to 1991 and the period after 1991. I mean, this 3 periods was really difficult, and we didn't have any kind of achievements, good achievements. But after the 1991, we paid more attention. The government paid more attention to English and to English language, and then we can achieve our goal. And we are, we are working on ourselves to improve the quality of English in Uzbekistan. And those are some of the common certificates: IELTS, CFR, and DCM. And those are very important, and they can help us to evaluate both teachers and students' overall knowledge. And talking about the IELTS, it is international certificate, and we can it helps to study and immigration. And talking about the band scores, it's from 1 to 9. And CFR is our national system, and nowadays it's called also multi-level exam. It's changed to multi-level exam, but before 2 years it was CFR. And DCM also helps to university entry and aligned with CFR.
Please take into consideration the due time, right?
Yes. This is why I'm talking very fast. I'm trying to talk fast.
Okay.
Those are the effective teaching methods which are used. First of all, communicative language teaching, self-based learning, and direct methods. 3 of them are mainly important in teaching English. So here we can see 4 photographs which can show the effective techniques of teaching: scaffolding, group working, and drilling. Those are this kind of methods, and teacher can differentiate. So on my diploma work, my graduation work, I used some of the methods of differentiated instruction, method. So this method, teachers can differentiate content, process, and product according to the student's readiness, interest, and learning process. Benefits of differentiated learning. So differentiated learning is very important between us, because we have so many students and their knowledge are very different and their ability is different. That's why we should pay attention to their age, their knowledge, and the ability of learning. That's why differentiated method is very important, and it helps to greater freedom to experiment new strategies, easier formative assessment, student ownership of learning, and teaching the same material in different ways. And here we can see some of the grammar problems which I face when I work with school students. Firstly, tense confusion. They have many problems with tense confusion, because we have only 3 tense in Uzbek language, and they can confuse when they see 16 sentences in the context in English. And subject-verb agreement errors. For example, I go to school, she goes to school, or she goes to school. They have such kind of mistakes. And misuse of articles and prepositions. As we don't have any kind of preposition and articles, they have many confusion. And low motivation in grammar focused lessons. They think that, what should I do when someone think about my grammar mistakes? They have many problems, and they have a fear to speak, they have a fear to use their grammar structure. That's why they have a low motivation in grammar. And use of visual aids. Visual aids. The role of gamification in multimedia tools in increasing students' interest in learning English. So I work with gamification and multimedia tools when I worked with students on my research. And gamification is very important for their life because the gamification element, because it helps to not only learn English more easier, but also with more happier. And this is the conclusion of my research. Effective grammar is special for young learners, integrates engaging activities, strategic teaching methods, and reliable assessment practices. So the conclusion of my work is I work as a student, and I found the most effective ways to teach grammar is firstly to motivate them, because we know that English is our second language and it's very difficult to learn them. That's why we should say that English is not difficult. We should say English is easier if you rest, if you do more trying. Firstly, motivation. The second one, we should use some of the gamification. We should use the gamification tool in order to make our lessons interesting, and we should use some of the interesting activities and games to engage our students to our grammar lessons. Çünkü biz boşta bulmamızı, onu görmeden öğrenmemiz gerekiyor. Şimdi bunu öğrenmeden yok, hala öğrenmeden niye şimdi şuna da bu öğrenmiyor.
Very young learners and young learners. Very young learners çünkü roşum o çekelerden ya da bunu ne söyleyeyim. 12 yaş gibi yani. Young learner'lar. Bugün itibar bir şey ne oldu gibi.
Bu şeyden ben yerden ne kadar diyor sizdeki.
Hayır, al. Bunu sonra ikimiz de kalacak. Evet.
Bu, üçüncü interaktif gramatik diyeceğim. Cümle verirken interaktif gramatik demiyorum. Rakamlı boyutlar arasında cümleler
interaktif gramatik degani biz bilamizki raqamli vositalarni ishlatish yordamida interaktiv grammatikani vujudga keltirishimiz mumkin. Ya'ni raqamli vositalar hozirgi kunda digital toolslardan foydalanamiz. Bu digital toolslar bizga do our lessons more interactive, and it helps us to do our lessons more happier, more funnier than using traditional methods. We use digital tools in order to do our lessons more more understandable for students, because it is non-traditional methods and it's more useful than traditional methods.
interaktif gramatik diyeceğim cümleler. Hayırdan oluyor. Hayırda bir interaktif gramatik cümleler de. Peki interaktif gramer diyeceğim sınıfı mağazı metodikleri
Böyle
İkinci talebemiz Ankara 21 grup talebesi Rahmetullahi ve Zarina Şakir'in The role of AI is enhancing writing skills, effective use of AI tools for English language, homework, writing, assignments mavzusundagi bitiruvchi malakaviy ishi. O'zim butun ekan. Hop, sizlarga natijalari a'lo darajada chiqqan 89-78%. Hop, buning ichida ilmiy rahbar xulosasi va tahdidlarning tahdidlari mavjud. Hujjatlarda kamchilik yo'q, shuning uchun boshlashingiz mumkin. Reglament bo'yicha 10 minut vaqt.
Dear teachers and committee, good afternoon. My name is Ms. Kumpulana Karina, and today I am pleased to introduce my work on the topic, the role of AI in enhancing writing skills and the effective use of AI tools for enhancing English language homework writing assignments. So my work is divided into 3 chapters, and chapter number 1 covers theoretical framework, where I have explored what other scholars and scientists have made so far on this topic. But I will talk about different benefits and functions of AI, as well as some possible threats for it, and provide some examples. The next chapter is devoted to AI development in Central Asia in general, and particularly in Uzbekistan. And then the third chapter is devoted to my own empirical study, exploratory action research, which I have done myself at my workplace, Advanced Learning Center. So, in terms of interaction, I guess it's worth to mention that nowadays AI is one of the fast-developing tools nowadays, and it's embracing the full world quite fast in all sectors: economic sector, financial sector, education, and even environment sector as well. And it also caught my attention because being a teacher, I have realized that I have some problems in terms of my student writing assessment. So whenever they do writing, they still struggle with some grammar accuracy or with some cohesion, despite the fact that they still have some improvements in listening or reading skills. And therefore, I have set myself some goals to explore how AI tools can help here to improve their writing skills. And for doing that, I have set 3 questions. The first one, to see how it impacts their motivation and engagement. Second, how exactly, to what extent it can help to improve their writing skills. And the third one, what are the advantages and possible limitations of using AI. So coming to chapter number 1, I want to talk about theoretical framework. When I was doing literature review, I have found many different positive feedback about usage of AI and positive improvements about usage of AI in classroom language, for example, learning. And one of the greatest things which Chatfield mentioned, that it can also improve not only content formats, but also can help in improving teacher-student interaction, which is extremely useful for establishing a good learning environment. Secondly, it also said that it helps in increasing their autonomy, that means taking responsibility for their own work and becoming more independent from the teacher. However, Greenfield mentioned here that there is a risk of over-reliance, which I will cover a bit later. Also, there was mentioned that it helps to personalize the learning system and provide faster feedback. And in terms of AI tools, you can see here, so these are the most well-known ones: ChatGPT, our closest friends, Duolingo, Quizlet, Freetalk, and Coursera. So, and however, despite all of these benefits, scholars and critics who say that because of the emergence of different AI tools, teachers now on the verge of becoming redundant and unemployed. However, I would say that this is not true at all because teachers still have their own roles in class. For example, they can still help with verifying the accuracy of information because not always ChatGPT or other tools provide accurate information on specific topics. Plus, here it says that they can provide information on some recent approach in terms of teaching methodology because ChatGPT can indeed help in terms of getting information, but it unfortunately cannot teach us to do something. Let's consider some challenges of AI. The first challenge, as I mentioned before, this is the challenge and risk of over-reliance. That means when students use it too often, they can have the risk of making it happen and use it too often without even trying to think themselves. And this is very bad because it can reduce their critical thinking and it can just make them lazy in general. They will not even try to do something on their own. And second challenge is very superficial learning. We know that it provides fast feedback, but because of fast feedback, it cannot provide detailed answer on something. And of course, we cannot learn some kind of subject, some kind of discipline, just with the help of AI tools. For example, teaching methodology cannot be learned just through the AI tools alone. Or for example, language, English or Spanish or German language cannot be learned just with the help of AI tools at all. Third, very well-known challenge, that's privacy risk. We upload our personal data and of course it can be just exposed to the global web, resulting in some information leaks. And the last one is plagiarism. It is a very, very common problem nowadays in school, universities, and colleges because students just copy-paste something that ChatGPT, for example, provides without acknowledging or citing original authors, which leads to lack of credibility of the work. Now let's consider the second chapter. So what I can say about the development of AI in Central Asia is that the first place is taken by Kazakhstan nowadays. Uzbekistan is considered to be the second fast-growing tech hub. On third place comes Kyrgyzstan, and fourth and fifth are taken by Turkmenistan and Tajikistan. Turkmenistan possibly because it's a politically isolated country. So Uzbekistan has made great reforms so far. So here is the list of reforms. Our president has adopted many different resolutions in 2021. Also, we've managed to establish different ID parks. We also have now ID parks in Namazan branch next to Ansida Hospital. And we have also managed to launch different programs in university, especially in National University of Uzbekistan here. For example, data mining, neural network, and AI for adaptive linguistics. Now let's go to the most interesting part. It's chapter 3 about empirical studies. That's my own study which I have conducted myself. So I have conducted this research in 1 week at Advanced Learning Center, that's my workplace. And for data collection tool, I have used questionnaires that I made myself using Google Sheets. There were 5 closed-ended questions, multiple choice, and 5 open-ended questions. Then I have used students' work before and after AI intervention. And the last one was reflective notes that I was writing during 3 classes, during 1 week, 1 working week. In terms of students, you can see that 2 levels were taken. The first one was essentials level, that is the second month of the IELTS level because I teach IELTS students. And the second one is mastery, more proficient one, the last month. And 7 of them were taken from mastery, 11 from essentials. So what I did, first of all, I did initial diagnosis to see what kind of problems and weaknesses they had. I gave them this topic for writing and just had a traditional lesson of testing. They were writing, say, for 45 minutes, and then I, as a teacher, was just going around the class, checking their work and providing the feedback and mistakes. So, in terms of statistics on teachers, so it showed that generally, teachers were quite positive about integrating AI into educational systems. They said that students mainly were using ChatGPT for
And that time is up. Try to conclude.
So, Marina, can you go to your conclusion and your discussion?
Okay.
Standing on different topics.
So here's the conclusion, please.
Time is up.
So that's the conclusion. We have concluded that AI tools enhance writing skills significantly. They improve their scores from 5.5 to 6 and 3.5 to 7.5, and that AI can be used best as supplements, not as a replacement, because teachers still have their own role and should be taken with some limits. And here's my perception that still, despite the fact that AI is a great tool, should be used in a balanced approach with the teacher's role. Here's my article, which I published in the journal called ANI in a conference that was held in Voronezh. That's the references which I have used for my work. And thank you very much for your attention. I'm now happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What is your future plan? What are you going to do?
After graduating university,
Yes.
probably now just immerse into my work, maybe do some professional development in terms of my work. I'm planning maybe to study a master's degree, but somewhere abroad, and then come back here.
Okay. After graduating master's degree,
Yes.
you can talk. You can learn that you have done hard work here. Experience, I went to a program. I'm not sure
What were the main differences? Difference in progress between the essential group and mastery.
So essential group mainly improved their vocabulary. They tended to use C1 vocabulary and grammar structures. They tended to make fewer mistakes. While in terms of mastery, they mainly improved their diffusion, because before they used to make very complex sentences but not understandable.
And do they equally use from the end?
But I guess essential group has benefited more than mastery, because mastery is more advanced group and they already knew some things. But in terms of improvement, essential shows more improvement than mastery.
So we did a good job in terms of doing the research and in terms of the data collection process. And my question here that is that you said that you are going to continue with your degree, right? So it's also very beneficial for your master's degree to understand the limitations during the research process. And if you did your research during the data collection process, what kind of limitations besides the good and the experience, what kind of limitations do you observe
Of using AI?
doing the research? So that, yes, especially focusing on the topic, what kind of limitations or barriers so that you can see the advantages.
I think that since AI is quite a novel topic, it doesn't have that many different literature or books on this topic that compared to, for example, methodology, because we have this myriad of templates work in the methodology part, and therefore it was a bit hard for me to find credible and reliable ones. So I can only find approximately maybe 20 of them that would relate to my study, and therefore I have to even go something like that doesn't really relate to writing, but just relates to education in general. And it's therefore I think that I will publish myself more works on writing, so that other teachers who want to do the same research as me, they can use my work for doing their own research.
One more question.
Karina, I congratulate you on your reaching this stage in Harvard. So, how do you ensure students don't become overly dependent on AI tools like ChatGPT? And what strategies did you apply to balance autonomy and AI support?
So as was reading my diploma work, I first wanted to, I was thinking of giving phones just to the students, but then I realized that they will not be using this as it's supposed to be. They will be distracted by some other apps, and plus they will be copying something instead of really learning. That's why I asked them to let us collaborate as one group, and they were dictating things to me, and I was thinking this. And I guess that we can control their use of AI by teacher, or for example, sometimes even setting some cameras for them to see what to use for doing work.
One more question. Okay, Karina, great. So, I have a question. Do you believe AI should be officially integrated into the writing curriculum?
I think that it has to be, but there are some limitations, because if we don't have first of all some official laws or any regulations considering AI, there's going to be a lot of cases of plagiarism happening, and the education will be worsened rather than improved. That's why, first of all, we need to establish some regulation, official laws, and after this, we need to include it into curricula and assessment.
That's all.
Anyway, it's unstoppable, yes?
Yes, like, anyway, something and find a way.
I've got a question for you.
Okay, it's good.
Thank you for your, I can say, wonderful, good research work. Yes, you are right that there are a lot of advantages of using AI sources in the lesson, yes, in any kind of content. Have you faced any problems using AI in your own practice?
In my own practice or in my own work?
Yes,
Research?
practice period.
I think that, as I said, AI is devoid of accuracy, because when we ask something AI to us, it just gives us very superficial answers, so we cannot just understand something deep enough. For example, if I want to learn more about methodology part, recently I asked myself specifically about methods like communicative, for example, approach or CPC methods. It provides very superficial. It just describes it and provides examples. But I want to know myself some nuances, some positive sides and negative sides, and some maybe real examples of teaching, and it doesn't do it because it doesn't have enough data to provide us with such information.
Navbatdagi kurs talablari Xitoyda yigirmasi kurs talabasi Supermanist Berdiora Aslanjon qizli. Koman Noy faloniga maxsus Bolgariyadagi urush asarining ingliz va o'zbek tillaridagi siyosiy tahlili mavjud. Diyorani hujjatlar informativida ham barcha hujjatlar mavjud. Plagiat natijalari a'lo darajada fan, milliy rahbar xulosasi va tahdidlarning tafsilotlari mavjud. Shuning uchun mayli boshlashimiz mumkin. Reglament bo'yicha 4 minut vaqt. Testda davom ettiramiz savollarni. Ham YouTube'da bo'lishi kerak, ham bayonnomada bo'lishi kerak. Hamma yozgan savollaringizni yozgan
Good afternoon, dear teachers, professors. Now let me introduce my thesis work on the topic of cultural issues in the translation of other common models scandal in Lithuania. Well, let me now begin why I chose this topic. Translation actually usually understood by translating one word from one language into another language. Actually, translating is beyond this. Usually when we translate the topics, we usually just translate the words. Actually, when we are translating it, we need to pay attention more to its cultural tone, etiquette, references. And so I took this story because my story is very rich in culture, and especially it's related to Victorian British era, and where the social norms and the social ethics were high, and especially the works of Arthur Conan Doyle usually shows how the culture impacts, and they are so big in culture. It may differ in Uzbek translation and in English translation as well. So the aim of my research is to analyze and identify cultural problems in the translation of Arthur Conan Doyle Scandal in Bohemia, and the objective that I used to fulfill my aim is I studied cultural elements like idioms, phrases, realia, and I tried to analyze them by dividing them into tables and see what kind of translation methods strategies were used, and I also tried to implement my own suggestions to improve the translation in the future. Well, when it comes to my structure thesis, the chapter 1 usually shows the information about Arthur Conan Doyle and its story and general information about the translation. And the chapter 2 shows dedicated to cultural issues viewed in the phase in the translation of this story. And the chapter 3 shows practical analysis of my work, where I compared Uzbek and English translation of words. Well, now let me begin by giving a little information about Arthur Conan Doyle. Arthur Conan Doyle was born in 1869 in Scotland. Even though he was trained as a doctor, he became one of the successful writers in English literature, and his Sherlock Holmes series were inspired by his professor, Dr. Joseph Bell, who used deduction and observation in his medicine. So, why I chose Arthur Conan Doyle's Candle in Bohemia? Actually, Sherlock Holmes is dedicated to the Victorian era, and it usually shows how cultural norms in that time showed. But when it comes to Candle in Bohemia, the first thing that captured my mind was how Ivan Adler outsmarted Sherlock Holmes. Usually, Sherlock Holmes is not outsmarted by anyone, but when she did it, he was so shocked. That's why I used it. And besides, it involves this intelligence, irony. Also, it has a lot of idioms, words, really that's not related to Uzbek. That's new to Uzbek readers. Well, let me now begin introducing what is Lingua culture. This term refers to words in it, the language and the culture. It means translation is not just translating words. It means that translation has both language and its culture. Translating something means giving another culture's prospects and mindsets to different ones. So I chose this, and it involves social norms, historical values, idioms, a lot of things. And now let me give you some examples. For example, when we're translating the phrase like Your Majesty in Uzbek, if you translate it just as Podshoh, it loses its formality and its respect. Then yet in Your Majesty, it shows respect and status. Instead, if we translate it Oli Hazretleri, it shows both respect and formality in Uzbek language as well. Now let me move to the translation strategy. When I was reading this book, actually when we're translating something, we usually see three translation methods. The first one is intralingual, which means like modernizing Shakespearean English. And the second one is interlingual, that is, I'm focusing on translating one story from one language to another one. And the last one is intersemiotic, which means like making films or theaters from the novel. And then, okay, when I was observing, I have seen this strategy that was used in my work. And when it comes to examples of Yawiya, this table shows what kind of strategies were used in order to give the Uzbek meaning, in order to explain how things were in that time for Uzbek readers. And the next one shows how irony and humor examples can be given and can be translated in Uzbek. As you can see, we translated just Sizmenin Lafı it loses irony. Instead, we can adjust it. And this one also, it was also adjusted because we cannot always translate everything word by word. And the next one shows just how idioms are translated. Usually, idioms are not translated word by word. They give equivalence in Uzbek. And here are the strategies how it's translated and Uzbek translation and the meaning as well. And the next one shows the summary of the strategies used in order to adjust everything into Uzbek language and English language as well, so that readers can understand and feel the atmosphere of that time. And this is what I did in my research, and I have found 45 cultural issues during this research, and I created tables for specified translation columns in order to get it more clarified. And key findings are orientation, famous cultural flavor, which means Hamsam and Bohemia words like they are not translated, they just left with the explanation, which means it helps readers to understand more. And descriptive translation was used with clear explanation because we cannot translate all the words as they were in English. And the next one is literal translations often fail. For example, game is a food. If it's translated oyun başlandı, it means like child's play. That's why it was translated iş başlandı. And the modulation helps preserve thought. For example, the woman, instead of boşayıyor, it was translated uyutulmasayıyor, which means shows some admiration, how he admires her. And thank you so much for my research. I tried to give it like full explanation.
Peki olur. Sağ olun.
Madam Lord, can I give an Uzbek because you work on the translation and the how to say, compare. You give information about regional books, author, and all. And who was the translator?
Well, I use different sources. For example, even I took some sources from the journal where it was translated, Sherlock Holmes, and I didn't use only one book. I was searching like English version.
But you do the circular book. The original version by Conan Doyle was the translator, but siz agar olishingiz mumkin, ikkita versiyasi bo'lsa-da, siz ikkita versiyasini ham olib yozishingiz mumkin edi. Lekin albatta tarjimon haqida ham you should say something.
Çünkü tercüman asası iyi. Bu tercüman bu iş hep iyi mi aslında?
Tarjima qilmagan bu ishni qilolmaysiz.
Tarjimon haqida hech narsa bilmayman.
Bitta xabar oldu. Thank you.
So what kind of mistakes have you observed in the translation process and how would you change it?
For example,
Your own opinion.
yes, like I have seen a lot of mistakes, like some mistakes. For example, as I mentioned before, the woman, right? For example, when Sherlock Holmes mentioned Ivan Adler, he used the phrase the woman. Sometimes it was translated Oshaido, which loses its admiration, Sherlock's admiration towards her. So it would be better if it's translated Umutin Masayo in order to show how Sherlock admires her, how Sherlock honors her. Because if you read like Oshayo, it becomes just one woman who like Sherlock so like one of them.
I went through recently about legal controlology, what kind of range of
Okay, lingual culture actually it is something.
legal culturology. Legal culture, not legal culture. Legal culturology.
Well, it is just the range where they're like not only
Range of linguistic.
yes, linguistics, where it shows like translating, not only translating the words like a vocabulary, but showing, giving it historical nonsense and then like cultural, how it affects to the culture. For example, we cannot just translate the word tea into Uzbek like a beverage, because in British it shows more than beverage, you know. It shows, for example, afternoon tea, it shows etiquette, it shows social norms. That's why we cannot just translate the words like a vocabulary, then we are translating such kind of novels.
You know the unit of legal culturology. Unit. For example, tea or lexi, they are units of any kind of range of linguistics. For example, lexi is a unit of lexicology. What is the unit of legal culturology? Concept is a unit of cognitive linguistics. What is the unit of legal culturology? For example, what does it call it in linguistics? For example, nima deb ataladi o'zbek tilshunoslikda, ingliz tilida termin borda.
You mean like reality? No.
Yes, you are right.
Realia.
But they are called legal culture.
Thank you.
One question. So, here in your literature, you state cultural issues in translation. Okay, what kind of cultural issues have you found in your study?
For example, yes. One of them was Hamilton Tap, the word Hamilton Tap. At that time, Uzbek readers, for example, in Uzbekistan, we don't have such kind of tap. And when we were translating such kind of things, we cannot just say Samsung Arabaka, because we need to give the reader that error. That's why I have seen like you need to give explanation to such kind of parts, and some parts were not even translated. Even for example, commissioner was not translated. We cannot translate it like Ishmon. It's like someone who has finished military services, but it was just give explanation.
Okay, what do you think? Is it challenging?
Yes, it is challenging because we should give glossary to each of them. Yes, we should provide.
Okay.
Translate English into big part of the European language.
Yes, why? Because first of all, the grammar is totally different. Totally different. And second of all, cultures are also totally different. European culture is different and Uzbek culture is different. And we should give everything in detail in order to, for the readers, in order to see, in order to them to feel the how it was written and what kind of social norms are given. That's why when we are translating different culture things, it becomes challenging. And for example, in order to explain how travel comes solve, they need to give glossary and other ways. They need to
Çünkü o zaman ortada birlikte sadece hiç kere geldiği için çok soğuduğu yerde yaşamıyor falan diye bunu okuyoruz.
İyi işlerimizde dokunması, yani uygulamada
İlk kadar yaşarız değil mi?
Bahasa itu kalabalık, hatta ağabeylerin hizmetleri kalabalık, şartlar the importance of effective reading techniques in developing reading comprehension of adult learners. Mahmutlar, şartlar oluşturacağını hüccetleri ilmedimizde naticeler ruhsayeti koyuş ama derecede vatandaşlar ihtiramla bulunması ve taklitleri mevcut vaktimiz kısmı itibariyle okul verilmeyken taklitler uniformlar icabi taklit edilmeyen sizler yıllarınız bu işe 10 minut var.
Şimdi orada zamana kayamızdı, aşağıya doğru kaçıyormuşsun.
Terapiyan diyorum, talep etkiyetti. Tiga dolar kokodu pada terapiyan. Good afternoon, dear professors and committee members. I'm Shadra and this is my topic. It's the importance of effective reading techniques in developing reading comprehension of adult learners. My topic also, reading is a crucial skill for adult learners, influencing success in academic, professional, and personal context. Nowadays, reading is the more important for adult learners in all the English system. In our Uzbekistan cultural system, learning English more top of priority, and so lots of learners try to improve their English skills. For example, reading is a more important skill for English. And unlike children and adults during life experience, but also face obstacles such as low confidence, lack of strategy, and time constraints. For example, middle learners can try to have kind of problems in abroad, so they are trying to learn hard to read. And Uzbekistan provides English craft reforms and national strategies. Many adults return to learning but struggle due to previous education gaps and limited exposure to English texts. This research supports strategic reading instruction and tailored for adults. And there are four types of objectives defined theoretical models of reading comprehension, identify and apply reading techniques, skimming, scanning. And there are four types of skills: skimming, scanning, predicting, and summarizing. Skimming is also reading quickly and to get main ideas, and scanning find some kind of main things, for example, names, also years, also location. And predicting reading is how we can get some kind of information. And analyze comprehension challenge among adult learners, design and test an instructional model, provide recommendation for teaching practice. My text structures three chapters, and they are chapter 1, the concept of reading and its role in adult education. Chapter 2 is also effective reading techniques, theory and practice. Chapter 3, experimental study and data analysis. Chapter 1, the role of reading skills in the language. Reading is also more effective for language. For example, we can also, in reading, for example, reading supports vocabulary, grammar, and syntax development. What kind of grammar structures in reading? Reading shows that how grammar rules uses in reading. For example, readers also can try to some kind of idioms, for example, some kind of new grammar structures and new words. So that reading is also supports vocabulary and grammar. According to Tresham input hypothesis, reading is a low-stress input method ideal for adults. Reading articles gradually increases vocabulary session. For example, in our real life, we can use some kind of reading strategies or some kind of reading articles or some kind of poems. We can also use lots of grammar rules and new words. And common problems faced by adult learners. Some kind of learners learn any kind of magazines or some kind of books. They are also don't understand their meaning because of limited vocabulary, grammar complexity, and weak background knowledge, lack of competence, or past negative learning experience. A student struggles with academic articles due to unfamiliar words and line and sentence structures. Types of reading comprehension. Visual comprehension, understanding text and details. When we read some kind of books or poems, lots of words or some kind of grammar rules and understanding, then we can find some kind of rules. And interfacial comprehension, reading between the lines. Evaluate comprehension, forming opinions, recognizing tone, and for example, after reading, learners answer what does the author imply to build inferential skills. And chapter 2, reading strategies. Skimming and scanning, predicting, summarizing. Skimming is reading quickly, forget general meaning, scanning location-specific information, predicting using titles, feeding to get context, summarizing, condensing main ideas. And these types of strategies are more important for reading, and also they improve our reading and some kind of grammar rules. Interactive reading models. Three types of more important models: bottom-up, top-down, and interactive. For example, bottom-up, recording letters and words first. Top-down is using background knowledge to understand. Interactive models, combining both for better results. For example, a student uses sentence context because unknown vocabulary.
She then concludes the
Metodology strategic writing and analyzing are essential for learners. Metacognitive awareness transforms reading from passive to active and includes strategic method models in adult ESL programs, train teachers to apply these techniques, promote the use of digital reading platforms for independent practice.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Great. So, I have a question. You talked about the reading strategy. That's like reading and the habit. So, there was the prediction. How do you use the prediction, yes, in your reading class? Prediction strategy. Do you remember how to use it?
For example, if you can read some kind of poems, and also you can imagine next chapters what meaning it is.
You gave in the second chapter, predicting. You have.
So we know that reading also is one of the important parts of learning languages. And just you spoke about reading. And do you think that reading is important part of learning language, or maybe a difficult part? And why skilled readers do? What do they do while reading something, maybe text, maybe some kind of writing, inspiration?
Yes, of course. Reading is also more important and more being challenged in English. For example, most beautiful skills, for example, singing. When we read some kind of poems, we also, first of all, we sing and telling, and we try to find mean ideas.
I have a question. Shida, thank you for your presentation and for hard work. I congratulate you on reaching this stage. It's not easy. So, reading is my favorite skill. So, I have two questions. Is reading only about looking at words? First question. And second, how does reading help improve grammar?
Okay, first of all, reading means also understanding and looking for main ideas. And reading is helps grammar. For example, this also shows how grammar rules used in this reading. And we can see some kind of examples and grammar rules.
Thank you.
What kind of practice reading techniques can you use as you have any classes in your practice period? Yes, of course. Speaking and scanning is wonderful for me, for my students. No, they are not techniques. The kind of they are strategies. Intensive, extensive training, they are strategies, like techniques.
Just so reading.
Yes. Jumbling, story.
Thanks to your dad.
Thank you.
Biz bunlarda katlaşmıştık.
Dr. G'ulomning Shunbola asarini tarjima qilishdagi lingva madaniy muammolar muqaddimani bergan. Reglament with minut vaqt. Muhtojjon qizining hujjatlari yig'machisida kerakli barcha hujjatlar mavjud. Jumladan ustozlarning ilmiy xulosasi, rahbarlarning va ichki va tashqi taxsuschilarning taqiqlari mavjud. Sizlarga sertifikat qaysi tarafda? Boshida.
96 çıktı.
Organik oxirida Hani 96 a'lo darajada ekan. Demak, boshlashimiz mumkin. Ana ustozga ko'radigan bo'lsangiz, ana ustozga muazzamni ishga ko'rib savollardan
Good afternoon, my dear teachers. Today, I will be presenting my bachelor's thesis on the topic of English cultural problems in translating Dr. G'ulom Shunbola from Uzbek to English. So, my paper explores 7 factors, the main objectives of my work, a brief overview of the writer's life and career, challenges in translating Shunbola and linguicultural problems in translation, such as realia and linguicultural features in Shunbola, and overall the conclusion. So today we are going to talk about the translation itself first. Translation is not limited to the linguistic act itself, but it also serves as a cultural bridge between cultures. Literally, translation also must convey identity, nationality, and traditional values. And the aim of my study is to analyze linguicultural challenges in the translation. I use several methods, such as comparative, contextual, and stylistical analysis. So let's talk about Dr. G'ulom, the writer of the Shunbola. Born in 1903 in Tashkent, he was mainly a poet, writer, and a publicist. The main themes of his work were childhood, social changes, and national values of Uzbek culture. He uses satire, humor, and folk speech in his work. His works featured several characters, such as clever and mischievous children. Mostly, he also used to feature mothers, wise elders, and social changes in the society. He also translated some works, for example, Pushkin and Shakespeare. Most of his famous works were Shunbola and Goethe. So one of his famous works was Shunbola. It was written during the Second World War. It took 4 to 5 years of the writer to write and finish it. The main theme of the story is childhood mischief and growth. The narrator was the main character, Shunbola. His name was not given in the book. Yes, but it was just a nickname. Shunbola is a reflection of Uzbek daily life, traditions, family values, social changes under Soviet rule, and the tone of the book was humorous, nostalgic, and emotional. Shunbola was translated to English by Gertrude Shinchkina. She was a translator in Soviet Union. Main challenges in translating Shumbala include cultural and specific elements, connotative language, national humor, which are difficult to translate because they lose their actual flavor when it's translated to another language. Stylistic features and the loss of national color. Let's talk about realia first. Realia is a culturally specific items such as food, traditions, or geographical places. Scholars like Lahut and Clary separated them into three groups. First of them is geographical, ethnographical, and traditional. Examples from the Shumbala of realia could be Dope, Navru, or Thunder. When translating realia in English, there are several challenges. For example, the equivalents do not exist in the English language. And the risk of losing cultural nuances when translating, or it can confuse the reader. However, there are common strategies for translating realias. First of them is transliteration, keeping the word as it is. The second one is using footnotes or glosses to explain them. And there is descriptive translation. For example, instead of saying Dukka, we can say traditional Uzbek hat. Legal cultural problems in translation. First,
For example, madeni var mola general şeyin İslam bence mutlu yok şükür. Üçüncüsü de o dediğiniz üçüncüsü de şu mola tercihime telifme var diye.
Religious terms were used, for example, we cannot just say in the name of God, or we cannot say Dvoga, Pol, Ochi, or Channel, we cannot translate them. There are no equivalents in English. The Shumbala itself also, we cannot say mischievous side because it has some kind of negative color in the word mischievous. There were cultural references also, for example, now it's not just a Persian New Year or a spring holiday. Or hello, we cannot say Kila because it's a must-have thing in every land of Uzbek culture. We cannot just translate it to like Kila. The strategies used in translating Shumbala, firstly was adaptation. Replacing culturally specific items with similar ones in the target language. For example, not hello, but rice pilaf. Or using footnotes or glosses, explaining untranslatable words in original novels. Retention, or in another word, transliteration, keeping the original term to preserve authenticity. For example, Choypana or Sunalai, we cannot translate them when we translate to English. Or explicitation, which means adding explanation. For example, Shumbala, mischievous but lovable voice.
generalization using broader terms. For example, instead of saying dua, we can say prayer. Omission, but it's not really. It's not always prayer. Consecutive words in translation. Words in Shumbala often carry emotional or cultural context. They are hard to translate directly. For example, Shumbala, as I said, we cannot say mysterious instead of Shum. Consecutive words also require contextual and sensitivity to preserve tone and emotion. National images and mentality. Shumbala includes culturally rooted imagery and symbols. For example, hospitality. The proverb was used, for example, "Koşunek hakkı, hayranik hakkı." We can translate this like the right of the neighbor is taken. This reflects the worldview and maybe misunderstood or flattened in English because we cannot find the actual words. So let's conclude my work. Translation is not a linguistic act, but it's more cultural nuance. However, there is the role of the translator also, because the translator must preserve the author's original tone and voice when translating to the target language. And overall, this study shows the importance of translating accurately and culturally adequate of Uzbek literature into English.
Shumbala sarno Uzbekçe tasdik olmayan kalıplarımız aslında başka bir tercüme multi boyutlar. Hazırki Türkçe tercümanlar Siyasi çalıştırma kullananlardan biri de hayırda gördük, hayırda çalıştırma kullananlardan. Which part you comparative analysis and which part you contrast production İmam devletlerinin yaşlı buradaki bizden buluş gerekli. Onun için aynı ashab-ı Muhammed'ı bana farklılardı Muhammed'ın tercüması mahkuş adetler bulmayan diyette adetler buluşturmak. Nime de tercüması gibi bakıyorlar degan adamlar şartlı buluş gerekli. Sizin için nime de tercüması gerekli? Mürekkep vasiyetlerden hani kullanmadan çıktıkları ahadisi yok.
I answer a mysterious but valuable book.
Mukavvısızlık isteyen degenler tanıştığınızda mukavvısızlık isteyenleri mağdurları diğer yanına farklı var.
Diğer yanına değil mi? Diğer yanına.
Mukavvısızlık isteyen ben biz vaziyetleri isteyen mukavvısızlık isteyenler diğer yanına farklı. Ya aynı manada ifade oluştu bir bilmiyorlar.
Ya, fakat istemeden yapacak olsun.
Ne yapmışım? Kavga değil.
Equivalente software
The community in the neighborhood, of the neighborhood.
Neighborhood family. Aslında aksakalın ailesinin nasıl olur? Sizin mahal aksakalın funksiyasını ulanın ailesinin bölümüne.
Bizim madeni kaçıyor. Madeni yapıyor. Borneo, quando tu vai a Santa Maria, deve dar tempo a não outra. Borneo é mais.
Lekin taqdimotga Size bir şirket şirket ki bakanlar ilan planımız.
Şartli ravishda besh qo'yapmiz. Ichidagi kontentdagi kamchiliklarni to'g'rilab topshirish sharti bilan shartli besh. Shu va Diyora bir ovozdan 5 baho bilan baholandi. Sardar va Xurshida 5 baho bilan baholandi. Omonjon va Diyora shartli ravishda, ya'ni prezentatsiya qilish talablariga muvofiq qilib boshqachadan prezentatsiyani topishga topshiradi. Keyin shartli ravishda 5 qo'yiladi. Tabriklar. Bilan bizdan mutlaqo oldimizda qanaqa? Fakat biz kovaçlarına nasıl yazıyorsunuz?
Well, thank you so much for all teachers for the faculty and our respectful supervisor for helping us. All our teachers helped us at some point, and we are so happy that we could achieve our goal, one of our goals, and we will be happy if we can achieve this kind of goal in the future, and again with the other teachers. Thank you very
Gracias.